The market of Duroc 9 was loud, full of shouts, smoke, and neon lights. Traders from different planets filled the air with strange smells and voices. Among the crowd, cages lined both sides of a narrow street. Inside those cages were living beings, aliens, hybrids, and sometimes even humans, sold like property. Ethan Cole, a human ex-soldier, walked through the market with a cold expression. He had seen too many wars, too much pain. He wasn't here to buy anyone. He just wanted to pass through. But then, he stopped. In one of the cages stood a girl who didn't belong in this place. Her skin shimmered a soft green under the sunlight, and her eyes, bright amber, almost golden, met his. She wasn't afraid, unlike the others. Instead, she looked at him as if she already knew him. The trader noticed Ethan staring. Human. You like her? Very rare species, this one. Strong, obedient, and beautiful. Only 10,000 credits. Ethan frowned. He didn't like the way the trader spoke. He turned to leave. But just as he did, the girl whispered something. Her voice was soft but clear through the noise. She said his name. Ethan, he froze. How could she know his name? He looked back at her. The girl didn't speak again, only kept her eyes locked on him. Calm, sad, and knowing. He walked back slowly. What did you say? He asked. She didn't answer, just smiled faintly, as if she had already said enough. Something deep inside Ethan stirred. Maybe it was guilt, maybe curiosity. Before he could stop himself, he pulled out his credit chip. How much did you say again? The trader grinned, showing yellow teeth. 10,000. Good price for freedom. Ethan transferred the credits. The cage door opened with a metallic click. The girl stepped out, light on her feet, almost too graceful for a slave. You're free now, Ethan said quietly. You can go. But she didn't move. She looked at him again and whispered, No, you bought me. Now, I belong to you, he sighed. I didn't buy you to own you. Suddenly her knees gave out. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was burning hot, her skin glowing with strange golden patterns spreading like fire under her skin. What's happening to you? Ethan asked, panic in his voice. The trader laughed nervously. Oh, she's just reacting. Happens sometimes when they leave the cage. She'll be fine. Maybe. Ethan didn't listen. He lifted her into his arms and pushed through the crowd. Hang on, he muttered. You're not dying here. As he reached his ship, her eyes opened halfway. You shouldn't have bought me, she whispered. Now they'll come for you too. He didn't understand what she meant, but something in her voice chilled him. Who's coming? He asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she fainted again, her glowing skin dimming slowly. Inside the ship, Ethan placed her on the medical bed. The scanner flickered as it read her vitals, but the results made no sense. Half of her DNA was human, the rest, unreadable. How was that possible? Ethan murmured. The ship's AI spoke softly. Subject identified as part human hybrid. Classified Project Genesis. Ethan frowned. He had heard that name before, back during his military days. A secret experiment, abandoned after rumors of living weapons. Could she be one of them? He looked at her sleeping form. She looked peaceful now, her breathing slow. She didn't look like a weapon. She looked fragile, lost. Hours passed. When Ethan finally sat down, his mind was full of questions. Who was she? How did she know his name? And what did she mean by they'll come for you too? The silence broke when he heard her voice again. She was awake, sitting up slowly. You shouldn't have saved me, she said. Ethan turned to face her. I don't leave people in cages. Her eyes softened. Then you are different from the others. He wanted to ask what she meant, but before he could, the ship's alarm blared. A red light flashed across the control panel. Incoming transmission, the AI said. A hologram appeared, showing a dark figure in a military coat. The voice was deep and cold. Captain Ethan Cole, you have something that belongs to us. Return the subject immediately, or we will retrieve it by force. Ethan's heart pounded. He looked at the girl. She looked terrified, shaking her head. They'll kill you if you don't let me go. He stood up. Let them try. The transmission ended. Silence filled the room again. The girl looked at him with wide, trembling eyes. You don't understand, she whispered. They made me. And they made me for you. Ethan froze. For me? Before he could ask more, the ship trembled violently. Outside, bright lights cut through the darkness of space. Enemy ships closing in. He grabbed the controls. Hold on! He shouted as the engines roared to life. The girl's hand touched his arm. Ethan? She whispered again. her voice filled with something strange, like fear and hope mixed together. And then for the first time, Ethan saw it, a faint glow spreading from her hand into his skin. It felt warm, alive, connected. He didn't know what was happening. But deep down, he knew one thing. The moment he bought her freedom, his own had ended. The ship flew through the endless dark of space, chased by the echo of explosions. Ethan's hands moved quickly over the controls, his jaw tight. Behind him, the girl, Lyra, sat trembling, her glowing skin slowly fading back to normal. The alarms went silent. For now, they were safe. Ethan turned toward her. "Who are you really, Lyra?" he asked softly. She didn't answer at first. Her golden eyes stared at the stars outside the window, as if she was trying to remember something that was too painful to recall. Finally, she said in a low voice, "I don't know who I truly am. I only remember darkness, cold metal walls, and voices calling me by numbers. They said I was part of Project Genesis. I escaped, but not before they changed what I am." Her hands trembled slightly. "You shouldn't have bought me, Ethan. Now you're part of this." Ethan frowned. "Then tell me what this is." Lyra looked down. The light under her skin began to pulse again. "It's a signal. They can track me through me." Before Ethan could respond, his ship's scanner beeped. The same signal she spoke of, faint but growing stronger. Someone was tracking them already. He cursed under his breath. "They're following your energy signature." Lyra nodded slowly. "I told you. You can't run from them." Ethan stood, determination hardening his face. "Maybe I can't run forever, but I can make them chase me in the wrong direction." He pulled open a panel and began typing commands into the navigation system. Lyra watched him, confused. "What are you doing?" "Sending a fake signal trail," Ethan said. "If they want to find you, let's give them something to chase." Lyra blinked. For a moment, she almost smiled. "You really think you can trick them?" "I can try," he replied. "I used to work for the same people who made you." "I know how they think." Her smile faded. "Then you also know they don't stop until everything is destroyed." Ethan met her eyes. "Then I'll destroy them first." Silence filled the cabin. The only sound was the hum of the engines. Lyra looked at him for a long time, her gaze soft but unreadable. "Why did you save me?" she asked finally. "You didn't know me." "You risked everything for someone like me." Ethan took a deep breath. "Because I've seen too many people treated like things. I couldn't walk away again." Lyra's voice became quiet, almost a whisper. "You think I'm a person. But what if I'm not?" He looked at her seriously. "Then we'll find out together." For a few peaceful minutes, neither of them spoke. The ship drifted through the stars, silent and calm. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy. A sudden flash of light appeared on the radar. Not ships, something else. A strange field of energy surrounded them. The lights flickered, the engines sputtered. Lyra's mark started glowing again, brighter this time. Ethan shouted, "What's happening?" Lyra's breathing quickened. "It's not a ship. It's them. They're trying to pull me back." Her body began to shake violently. The golden symbols on her skin burned with light, moving like living fire. Ethan rushed to her side. "Stay with me," he shouted, but she could barely hear him. Her voice trembled, weak and broken. "They want to erase me. Take control again." "Not while I'm here," Ethan said. He grabbed the emergency injector from the medkit and connected it to the scanner. "I'll block the signal." He began typing commands, linking her pulse to the ship's frequency jammer. The system buzzed, overloaded. Sparks flew across the console. The ship shook again, harder this time. Lyra screamed, clutching her chest. Ethan didn't stop. "Come on, come on!" Finally, the jammer activated. A burst of static filled the air. The glowing marks on Lyra's skin flickered, then dimmed. She gasped for breath and collapsed against him. Exhausted, Ethan held her close. "It's over. You're safe now." But she shook her head weakly. "No, it's not over. You just made them angry." The lights of the ship turned red again. A robotic voice spoke from the comms. "Unauthorized interference detected. Subject termination protocol activated." Ethan's eyes widened. "They've activated a kill command." He raced to the control deck, typing as fast as he could. The kill code was inside her, programmed into her DNA. It was counting down. Lyra's body began to glow again, this time not from life, but from energy building to explode. Ethan turned back to her. "Listen to me, Lyra. You have to fight it. Don't let them control you." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I don't know how." He knelt beside her and took her hand. Then let me help you. She looked into his eyes, scared but trusting. Their hands touched, and for a moment the glow spread between them. His scanner went crazy, showing energy transfer. Lyra screamed, but this time it wasn't in pain. The light from her skin surrounded both of them. The countdown stopped at 1 second, then silence. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. The lights were normal again. Lyra was still breathing, lying weakly in his arms. She looked up at him and whispered, "How did you do that?" "I didn't," Ethan said softly. "We did," her eyes filled with tears. "You connected to me, like no one ever has." Before Ethan could reply, the scanner beeped again. The data showed something new. Her DNA had changed. It was no longer just alien. It was now part human. Ethan's voice was quiet. "What did we just do?" Lyra's expression turned distant. "We broke their code." The screen flickered with one last message before turning off completely. Project Genesis compromised. Retrieval force deployed. Ethan stood, heart pounding. "They're coming." Lyra looked up at him with fear and something else, hope. Then we run. Outside in the distance of deep space, a massive warship appeared, its lights cold and white, scanning the void. And somewhere inside that ship, a voice said quietly, "The human made contact. Begin the hunt." The stars stretched endlessly before them as Ethan's ship drifted through the silent void. The engines hummed softly, echoing the rhythm of his racing heart. He didn't speak. He couldn't. The last few hours had changed everything. Across from him, Lyra sat quietly, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Her golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. The marks on her skin were calm now, no longer burning with energy. But he knew they were only sleeping, not gone. Ethan checked the scanners again. "Still nothing," he said, trying to sound calm. "We lost them for now." Lyra nodded, but her hands were trembling. "They will find us again," she said softly. "They always do." He looked at her, searching for answers. "You said they made you, and that they made you for me. What did you mean by that?" She hesitated, looking down at her hands. "I don't remember everything. There are pieces missing, like someone took my memories and locked them away. But when I look at you, I feel something, like I've seen you before." Ethan frowned. "Maybe you were shown my image during the experiments?" Lyra shook her head. "No, it's deeper. When you touched me, something woke up inside me. It wasn't pain. It was recognition." Her voice broke slightly. "Ethan, I think they used your DNA to create me." The air seemed to freeze. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "That's impossible." "Not for them," Lyra said quietly. "They call it hybrid bonding. They take the genetic code of soldiers, strong, loyal humans, and mix it with alien matter to make perfect life forms. But something went wrong with me. I wasn't just a soldier, I began to feel." Ethan sat back, his mind spinning. "You're saying you were made from me?" She nodded slowly. "That's why I knew your name. That's why my body reacted to you. You're part of what I am." He stared at her, unable to speak. The idea was too much, too unnatural. Yet, when he looked at her, he couldn't deny the strange connection between them. After a moment, he whispered, "They didn't make you to be free, did they?" Lyra shook her head. "No, I was their property, their experiment. I escaped before they finished programming me." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "Programming?" "They wanted to use me as a weapon," she said, her voice trembling. "But I started remembering things I was never supposed to. Emotions, pain, dreams. They said emotions made me defective." Ethan clenched his fists. "You're not defective. You're alive." Her golden eyes softened. "That's what scares them the most." Before Ethan could reply, the ship's AI spoke suddenly. "Incoming encrypted transmission detected. Source, Earth Military Command." Ethan froze. "Earth Military? That's impossible. I've been off-grid for years." The message started playing. A familiar voice filled the cabin. "Captain Cole, if you're hearing this, then Project Genesis has failed. The hybrids have escaped control. Termination is authorized. No survivors." Lyra's eyes widened. "Termination?" Ethan slammed his hand against the console. "Those monsters," the voice continued. "One hybrid, subject Lyra, contains unauthorized human DNA. Eliminate the human connection immediately." The message ended, leaving only silence. Lyra's voice shook. "They want to kill me because of you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "No, Lyra. They want to kill us both because we broke their rule." Because we proved something stronger than their control. He stood up, pacing. If they used my DNA, there has to be a record somewhere. Files, experiments, something. He moved to the storage panel and pulled out a small data chip. This chip has military access codes. It can open any restricted archive. Lyra looked uncertain. But those archives are on Earth. Ethan smiled faintly. Then that's where we're going. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. You can't go back there. They'll destroy you. I'm already a dead man to them, Ethan said. But if I can find out what they did to you, maybe I can stop them from making more like you. Lyra touched his arm gently. Ethan, what if the truth hurts more than the lies? He looked into her eyes. Then at least we'll face it together. For the first time, she smiled, a real soft smile. You're stubborn, she whispered. He chuckled. And you're glowing again. She looked down, startled. The golden symbols had returned, brighter than before. But this time they didn't burn. They pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Ethan scanned the light patterns on her skin. The device beeped and displayed a message. Memory lock detected. Access restricted to origin source. What does that mean? He muttered. Lyra's voice was distant. It means the answers are inside me. But only the one who created me can unlock them. Who? Ethan asked. Lyra's expression turned grim. His name was Dr. Varen Holt. He was the lead scientist on Project Genesis. If he's still alive, he'll be the only one who knows what I truly am. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we find him. Before they could plan further, the ship's alarm blared again. A signal was approaching fast, too fast to be natural. Lyra's voice was tight. It's them. The radar showed a dark shape emerging from hyperspace, a massive vessel with the symbol of the Genesis Corporation glowing red on its hull. Ethan grabbed the controls. Hold on! The ship trembled violently as energy blasts ripped through the void. Sparks flew inside the cockpit. Lyra screamed, Ethan! I see them! He shouted. They're locking weapons. The enemy ship sent a message. Surrender the hybrid or be destroyed. Ethan's eyes burned with anger. They'll have to kill me first. Lyra placed her hand on his arm again, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. Then we fight together. Their ship dove into a field of burning debris, lasers chasing them like angry stars. The darkness around them flashed red and white, and as the chaos unfolded, Lyra whispered softly, almost to herself, I remember something. Something important. Ethan looked at her. What is it? Her eyes filled with tears. Dr. Holt didn't create me to be a weapon. He created me to save someone. And that someone was you. Ethan's heart stopped. What did you say? But before she could answer, an explosion tore through the ship, throwing them both into darkness. The ship spun out of control, flames bursting through the engine bay. Ethan's vision blurred as alarms screamed around him. He felt his body hit the control panel, sparks biting his skin. Lyra! He shouted through the smoke. He couldn't see her. The air was thick with black haze and the smell of burning metal. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw a faint golden light flicker. Her glow. Ethan. Her weak voice came through the static. He crawled toward her, pulling her away from a pile of debris that had crushed part of the console. Her hands were shaking and her eyes were half closed. Are you hurt? He asked, trying to stay calm. She shook her head slowly. Not yet, but the ship? He looked up. The navigation display was cracked, flashing red. Main reactor critical. They had less than 2 minutes before the entire ship exploded. Without thinking, Ethan pulled her to her feet. We have to move now. They stumbled toward the escape pod bay. The corridor was full of fire and sparks, and every step felt heavier than the last. Behind them, the sound of the Genesis warship grew louder, like a heartbeat of death. Lyra suddenly stopped. Wait, she said. Someone's trying to override the pod system. Ethan slammed the emergency control panel. Can you block it? She closed her eyes, her golden light brightening. Sparks danced around her fingers as she touched the console. I can try. But it's not a person. It's the ship's AI. They've taken control remotely. He cursed under his breath. Then we'll do it the old way. He pulled his blaster and fired at the control locks. The pod doors hissed open, smoke spilling out. He grabbed Lyra's hand and pushed her inside. She looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. Ethan, what about you? I'll be right behind you, he said. But his voice cracked slightly, betraying the truth. She reached for his arm. No, I won't leave without you. He looked at her and smiled faintly. You have to. You're the key, Lyra. You said the answers are inside you. Find Holt. Find the truth. Tears welled in her golden eyes. I don't want to do this alone. He leaned closer and whispered, You won't be alone. I'll find you. I promise. Before she could reply, he hit the release button. The pod's doors slammed shut, and with a burst of pressure, it shot into space, spinning away from the dying ship. Ethan turned back to the burning cockpit. The Genesis ship loomed ahead, preparing for the final strike. He jumped into the remaining pod and slammed the manual launch lever. The pod ejected a split second before the explosion consumed the main ship. Flames lit up the void like a second sun. Ethan's pod tumbled through the debris, shaking violently until everything went dark. When he woke up, everything was quiet. His pod had crashed on a cold, dark planet. The air was thin, the ground covered in frost and black stone. He stumbled out, his breath visible in the freezing air. Lyra, he whispered. He had no idea where she was. The pod's navigation system was dead. He checked the beacon, no signal. The Genesis ship was nowhere in sight. Then he heard a faint noise in the distance, like a voice echoing through the wind. Ethan! He froze. It was her voice. He followed the sound, climbing over jagged rocks until he saw a faint golden glow ahead. His heart raced as he ran toward it, but when he reached the light, he stopped dead in his tracks. It wasn't Lyra. It was a hologram, projected from a small device half buried in the dirt. Her image flickered, her voice calm but distant. Ethan, if you're seeing this, then I'm alive. But we've been separated. I was captured by Genesis drones after my pod landed. They're taking me back to the labs. Don't come for me. It's too dangerous. He clenched his fists. Too dangerous? He growled. That's not how this ends. The message continued. They're calling me Subject Zero again. They said something about Phase 2. I think they're trying to reprogram me. Please, Ethan, find Dr. Holt before they do. He's the only one who can stop this. The hologram blinked one last time. And Ethan, remember what I said. You were the reason I was created. Then the image vanished. Ethan stood there, his heart pounding, anger and fear mixing inside him. He knew what Genesis was capable of. If they got to her mind, if they erased her memories, Lyra would be gone forever. He turned toward the dark horizon. In the distance, faint blue lights shimmered, the glow of a hidden facility. Phase 2, he whispered. Not if I get there first. He loaded his blaster, pulled his coat tight against the freezing wind, and started walking. Each step echoed with determination, but he didn't notice the drone watching him from above, its red eye following his every move. Far away, in the Genesis laboratory, Lyra opened her eyes on a metal table. Cold restraints locked her wrists. A white light blinded her vision as a voice spoke over her head. Welcome back, Subject Zero. It's time to complete your programming. Lyra tried to move, but her strength was gone. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her again was Dr. Varen Holt stepping out of the shadows. Lyra's eyes flickered open. A bright white light burned above her, and the smell of metal filled her lungs. Her wrists were strapped to the table, her body weak and cold. For a moment she couldn't remember where she was, or who she was. But then the memories started to return. Ethan, the ship, the crash, his promise. I'll find you, I promise. Her heart trembled. She tried to move, but the restraints glowed faintly, reacting to her energy. Every time she struggled, they tightened. A door hissed open. The sound of footsteps echoed in the lab. Dr. Varen Holt walked in, wearing a long black coat and silver gloves. His eyes were sharp, almost glowing blue. Behind him, screens displayed strange DNA patterns. Some looked human, others not. Good morning, Subject Zero, he said softly. I see your power hasn't faded. That's good. We'll need it. Lyra's voice was weak but defiant. I'm not your subject anymore. Holt smiled faintly. You've always belonged to me. You just don't remember yet. He tapped a control pad, and a holographic image appeared above her. Footage from years ago. A lab, bright and clean. Scientists working around a tank filled with golden liquid. Inside the tank floated a small figure. Her. Lyra gasped. That's me. Holt nodded. You were created from a fusion of human DNA and energy from the Alaris core, a perfect hybrid, designed to survive where no human or alien could. You were my masterpiece. She shook her head. You're lying. I was born on Alaris Prime. My family. There was no family. Holt interrupted. Your memories were programmed. We needed you to believe you were free. That's how you learned emotion, empathy, and loyalty. That's why. He could connect to you. He turned a dial, and another hologram appeared. Ethan, walking through a Genesis lab years ago, wearing the same uniform as Holt. Lyra's breath caught. No. He can't. He was part of Project Horizon, Holt said coldly. A volunteer soldier. The first human to bond with you. He helped raise you, trained you, and then fell in love with you. But that was never the plan. Lyra's heart shattered. She didn't want to believe it. Ethan had saved her, risked everything for her. Could all of that have been a lie? Holt leaned closer. Don't you see? The emotion you feel for him, it's a leftover command. You were built to protect him, no matter what. Lyra stared at him, her eyes glowing brighter. No, I know what's real. What I felt was real. Holt chuckled softly. We'll see. He activated a machine beside her. A blue beam scanned her body, reading her memories. She screamed as flashes of her past played around her. Ethan's smile, his laughter, their escape, the moment he bought her freedom. And then she saw something else. A memory she didn't recognize. Ethan standing beside Holt, his hand resting on her tank, saying quietly, If she ever wakes up, don't tell her who I am. The image shattered. Lyra's glow faded, replaced by confusion and pain. Tears slid down her cheeks. Meanwhile, far across the frozen wasteland, Ethan was tracking the Genesis signal. His hands were bleeding, his eyes red from exhaustion, but he didn't stop. He'd found a small outpost, abandoned except for one half-broken terminal. He hacked into it, and a grainy hologram appeared, a message from an old scientist. If you're receiving this, you're looking for Project Horizon. Holt's location has changed. He's moved to Facility 9 beneath the northern cliffs. Be warned, he's experimenting with something new, something even Lyra doesn't know about. Ethan clenched his jaw. Facility 9. He looked up at the stars. Somewhere above that frozen sky, Lyra was suffering. And she might be learning things he had spent years trying to hide. He whispered to himself, I have to reach her before Holt does. Back in the lab, Holt turned off the machine. Lyra's eyes were open but unfocused. Her voice trembled. You said, he worked for you. Yes, Holt said simply. He was your handler. The only one you trusted. She looked at him with hatred. Then why did he save me? Holt smiled darkly. Because he fell in love with what he created. But love is a flaw, Lyra. A weakness I intend to remove. He raised a syringe filled with silver liquid. This will erase everything. Your pain, your memories, even your connection to him. When it's done, you'll be perfect again. Lyra struggled, the restraints glowing brighter. You'll never make me forget him. Her eyes blazed gold. The energy inside her exploded outward, cracking the metal table beneath her. Alarms screamed through the lab. The glass panels shattered, and Holt shielded his face from the light, but instead of breaking free, Lyra's power suddenly faded. She fell back, gasping. The restraints tightened again automatically. Holt stepped closer, smirking. Still not ready, he said. But soon you will be. He turned to the guards. Prepare the chamber for transfer, and increase the neural dampeners. I want her mind silent. As they wheeled her away, Lyra's gaze drifted upward, to the ceiling, where a small security drone hovered. She focused her remaining strength, sending a weak energy pulse into the drone's system. A single line of code appeared on its screen. Ethan, I'm still alive. The drone flickered once, then flew off toward the storm outside. Holt didn't notice. Snow whipped across the frozen cliffs as Ethan climbed higher, his breath visible in the cold. Each step toward the Genesis facility felt heavier than the last. His muscles ached, but his mind burned with one thought: find Lyra. The drone he'd found earlier had played a faint message. "Ethan, I'm still alive." Those words were enough to push him forward. He couldn't let her down. Not again. The facility soon came into view. A massive steel fortress buried under ice, its entrance hidden behind a wall of frost. Blue lights blinked under the snow, and the hum of machinery echoed faintly beneath his boots. Ethan crouched behind a ridge, scanning the area. 2 guards patrolled the main gate, wearing Genesis armor. Above them, drones floated silently, their red eyes scanning the horizon. He took a deep breath. "Old habits, Ethan," he muttered. 1 shot, 1 move. He pulled out his silencer and fired twice. Both guards dropped before they could make a sound. He slipped through the gate and into the dark tunnel beyond. Inside, the temperature rose slightly, but the air was thick with the smell of chemicals and metal. Lights flickered along the corridor as if the place itself was breathing. Ethan followed the sound of machines deeper inside until he reached a control room. On the screen was Holt's face, cold, calm, and calculating. "Subject Zero's memory synchronization is almost complete," Holt said to one of his assistants. "Initiate Phase 2 in 10 minutes. Ethan's blood ran cold. Memory synchronization. He opened a side panel and inserted a data spike into the terminal. Lines of code appeared on the screen. As he searched, he found classified files marked Project Horizon, Final Phase. He opened one. Inside were dozens of video logs, each showing Lyra in a lab, surrounded by scientists. In one video, she was unconscious as Holt spoke to the camera. "The subject's energy core is stable, but emotional interference from the human, Ethan Ward, has created unpredictable results. The connection between them may be more than programming. It may be evolution." Ethan froze. His name was there, his past, the truth he had tried to forget. He remembered it now, years ago, volunteering for Genesis. They told him they were building the future, merging humanity with alien energy. He never knew they'd use him to control it. He closed his eyes, guilt flooding him. "I was part of it," he whispered. "All this time, but there was no time for regret." Lyra was still inside. He downloaded the location of the testing chamber and moved quickly down the hall. In the lab, Lyra lay inside a glowing containment tube. Her body floated in blue light, her eyes closed. Wires and tubes connected to her chest, feeding into machines that pulsed with energy. Dr. Holt stood nearby, watching a holographic projection of her brain activity. "She's stabilizing," his assistant said. "But there's something strange. Her energy levels keep spiking when we mention his name." Holt frowned. "Remove all emotional triggers. The human connection must be erased." Lyra stirred, her eyelids fluttering. "Ethan," she whispered weakly. The machines beeped rapidly. The assistant panicked. "Sir, her energy core is reacting." Before Holt could respond, a thunderous explosion shook the walls. Lights flickered and alarms blared. "Security breach," shouted a guard. Holt turned sharply. "It's him." "Lock down the lab!" Ethan kicked down the main door, smoke rolling in behind him. His blaster flashed as he took down the guards one by one. Sparks flew and shattered glass littered the floor. "Lyra!" he shouted. Through the smoke, he saw her, floating inside the containment tube, eyes half open, reaching for him. "Ethan!" Her voice was soft, almost like a dream. He ran toward the console and fired at the control panel. Sparks burst out and the containment field flickered, then failed. The glass cracked and shattered as Lyra collapsed into his arms, weak but alive. "You came back," she whispered. "I told you," he said, holding her close. "I don't break promises." But their moment ended as Holt stepped forward, holding a plasma weapon. "Touching," Holt said coldly. "But you don't understand what she is, Ethan. She's not just a creation. She's the key to something far greater." Ethan pointed his blaster at him. "I don't care what she is. She's not your property," Holt smirked. "You think this is about ownership." Lyra's power came from the Alaris core, the same energy that destroyed her planet. Genesis recovered it and put it inside her. Ethan froze. "You mean she's carrying—" "Yes," Holt interrupted. "The last fragment of Alaris itself. She's not just alive, Ethan. She's the core reborn. And if her energy fully awakens, she could either save the universe or burn it to ashes." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly gold. "He's lying," she said, but her voice trembled. Deep down, she wasn't sure. Holt stepped closer. "Give her to me and maybe you'll both survive." Ethan tightened his grip on his blaster. "Over my dead body." "Very well," Holt said. He pressed a button on his wristband, and a blinding light filled the room. Metal arms sprang from the ceiling, grabbing Ethan and throwing him across the floor. Lyra screamed as the machines dragged her back toward the containment unit. Ethan tried to rise, but his vision blurred. He saw Holt inject something into Lyra's neck, a silver serum. Her body trembled violently, golden light spilling from her eyes. "No," Ethan shouted. Lyra looked at him one last time before her body went still. The glow spread through her veins like fire. The machines began to overload, and the lab shook violently. Holt smiled, whispering to himself, "It has begun." Outside the facility, the ice cracked open as energy waves rippled through the ground. The sky turned orange and lightning danced across the clouds. Ethan crawled toward Lyra's body, shouting her name. "Lyra, wake up!" But her eyes were wide open, glowing brighter than ever. She whispered in a distant, echoing voice, "Ethan, I can hear everything. The stars, the planets. The core is awake." The entire room filled with light. Then, everything went dark. A blinding light filled the Genesis facility. The walls trembled as waves of golden energy burst from Lyra's body, melting steel and cracking glass. Alarms screamed, and sparks rained from the ceiling like fire. Ethan shielded his face, shouting over the chaos, "Lyra, you have to stop!" But Lyra couldn't hear him. Her body floated above the ground, surrounded by golden flames. Her eyes glowed like twin suns, and her voice echoed in the air, soft, distant, and no longer human. "Everything. It's calling to me, the core. It remembers." Dr. Holt stood across the room, his coat whipping in the wind from the explosion. His face was calm, almost proud. "Yes, remember who you are, Lyra. You are the last of Alaris, the energy that created life across galaxies. You were never meant to belong to one man." Ethan turned his weapon toward him. "You did this." "You used her." Holt smirked. "I gave her purpose." He raised a remote device. "And now she'll finish what the core started, rebirth through destruction." He pressed a button. The ground split open. Beneath the lab, hidden chambers began to glow. Machines powered by Lyra's energy came to life, feeding on the radiation pouring from her body. Lyra's scream shook the air. "It hurts!" Ethan ran to her, ignoring the heat that scorched his skin. "Lyra, look at me!" he shouted. "You're stronger than this. You control the power. It doesn't control you." Her gaze flicked to him, for just a second, her human side breaking through. "Ethan, I can't stop it. If I let go, it will destroy everything." "Then don't let go," he said. "Hold on to me." To us, tears glowed on her cheeks like drops of light. "You don't understand. If I fight it, I'll burn out." "I don't care," he whispered. "I'm not leaving you again." He reached her, grabbing her hands. For a moment, the energy stilled. The golden light softened, pulsing like a heartbeat. But Holt wasn't done. "Foolish," he muttered. "You think love can stop creation." He activated the console again. Energy surged through the floor, connecting directly to Lyra. She screamed as the machines fed on her power. The entire facility shook, ice breaking off the cliffs outside. Ethan turned and fired at the console, but the plasma bolts bounced off the energy field. "Damn it!" He pulled Lyra closer. "Listen to me." "You said the core remembers. Then make it remember who you are. You're not their weapon, Lyra." Her voice trembled. "I don't know if I can." "Yes, you can," he said softly, pressing her hand to his chest. "Feel this, my heart. That's what's real." Her glow flickered again. Slowly the light dimmed. The energy field around them began to collapse. But Holt snarled, "Enough." He grabbed a shard of metal and drove it into the main reactor. "If I can't control it, then no one will." The reactor erupted. A wave of force knocked Ethan and Lyra across the room. The explosion tore through the walls, sending debris flying. Ethan's vision blurred. He coughed, crawling toward Lyra. She was lying on the ground, unconscious but still glowing faintly. He reached her just as the roof began to cave in. "Lyra, please." Her eyes opened halfway. "Ethan." He smiled weakly. "That's it. Stay with me." She reached up, touching his face. "You shouldn't have come back." "I made a promise," he whispered. Her glow brightened again, so bright it hurt to look. But this time the light wasn't wild. It was calm, focused. She turned her head toward the reactor's remains. If I release this energy here, the core will shut down. The planet will survive. But Ethan shook his head. No, don't say it. I won't survive it, she finished softly. He grabbed her shoulders. There has to be another way. She smiled through her tears. There never was. You gave me freedom, Ethan. Now let me give you something back. He shook his head, his voice breaking. Lyra, please. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. You showed me what being alive means. That's enough. Before he could stop her, she stood up, her golden light blazing once more. The ground split beneath her feet as she floated into the air, her voice echoing through the entire facility. I am Lyra of Alaris. I am not your weapon. I am not your creation. I am free. With a final burst of power, she released everything. A golden shockwave exploded outward, consuming the machines, melting metal, and silencing Holt's screams as he was thrown into the flames. The blast reached Ethan, but instead of burning him, it wrapped around him like warm sunlight. He heard her voice inside his mind one last time. Live, Ethan, for both of us. And then she was gone. When the light faded, the facility was nothing but ruins. Snow fell quietly through the cracks in the ceiling. Ethan lay in the debris, bruised and broken, but alive. He looked up at the fading sky, the last traces of golden light disappearing into the clouds. Lyra, he whispered. Silence. Only the sound of wind. Then, through the snow, a faint shimmer appeared in the air, a tiny spark of gold that hovered for a moment before vanishing into his hand. He stared at it, tears filling his eyes. You're still here, he whispered. Far above the planet, among the stars, something stirred. A small fragment of light drifted through space, alive, aware, and whispering softly. I'll find my way back to you.